Have you ever watched an animated film and just realized, wow, there's so much more going on here than just the story on the surface, that maybe it's actually digging into like ancient myths, but making them speak to, well, us right now. Today, we're diving into Mamoru Hosoda's 2015 film, Bakemono no Ka, you probably know it as Boy and the Beast. And yeah, on the surface, it looks like this visually stunning, really moving fantasy adventure. You know, lonely human kid falls into a parallel world, gets mentored by this big, gruff, bear-like monster. Classic setup, feels familiar, but trust us, there are layers here.
Yeah.
Deep layers.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I think the real genius is. It's not just the animation, which is gorgeous, don't get me wrong. It's how incredibly detailed and, well, deliberate the whole supernatural world is. It's built right on top of Japanese folklore, religious traditions. Hosoda isn't just making stuff up for a fantasy world. He's taking ancient ideas and using them to ask really modern questions. Questions about being a father, finding your identity, figuring out how to balance the wild side and the civilized side of yourself. And he's actually said, like in interviews, that the film was his way of working through his own questions about becoming a parent.
Right. That personal angle, it adds so much depth, doesn't it? It makes you think about how it shapes the whole story. So, okay, our mission for this deep dive, we're going to unpack how Hosoda takes these old traditions and kind of reframes them, builds this powerful modern myth about needing a father figure, maybe, and just figuring out who you are. Let's get into it. Okay, so the title itself, Bakemono no Ko, that points us right to the core supernatural idea. So first things first, what is a bakemono?
Right. Well, Bakemono no, that's arte. It literally means something like a thing that changes or a shape-shifting thing. It's a term from Japanese folklore. They're a type of yusukai, these supernatural beings. And it's important, they're different from yurei. Those are ghosts, like spirits of dead people. Bakemono, traditionally, they're often living animals. Think of the clever fox, the kitsune, or maybe the trick-storner raccoon dog, the tanuki. And the key thing is they temporarily transform. They shift shape, maybe disguise themselves. They're creatures of, well, change. But, and this is crucial, Hosoda does something really radical with this idea, very purposeful. Instead of these lone, temporary shapeshifters, he gives us Jutengai. It's this whole other world, vibrant, bustling, with a society of like 100,000 anthropomorphic beasts. And here's the twist. Their state isn't temporary shapeshifting. They exist in this permanent hybrid beast-like form. That's their stable reality. And Jutengai isn't chaos either. It's structured. It has a government, this revered grandmaster figure, social ranks, rules. You can't just draw your sword whenever you want. So he takes this idea of temporary change and makes it the permanent foundation for a whole civilization.
Wow, okay. That's a huge shift. So it's not just a cool fantasy setting. He's fundamentally changing what monster means, making the other the norm almost, and using that to, reflect back on us humans.
Exactly that. Hosoda actually said he created Jutengai so that non-human characters could sort of judge the world of human beings. To point out the stranger aspects of our lives that maybe we don't see ourselves. And the film sets up this core paradox.
Yeah.
The beasts in Jutengai, they're said to have more concrete hearts. But humans, we're the ones with this unique problem, this hole in our hearts from which darkness grows.
Oh.
Yeah, it completely flips the script on the usual monster story. Here, the quote-unquote monsters are, in a way, more emotionally sound, more straightforward than us. It fits with Hosoda really admiring beauty in the beast, that whole theme of overturning expectations where maybe ugliness on the outside hides beauty inside. Jutengai becomes this lens for looking at human flaws.
That's really thought-provoking, the idea that we're the ones with the emptiness. So, okay, if these beasts are more complete, what drives them? What are their highest goals in this world, Jutengai?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting, and very specifically Japanese. The main conflict kicks off because the Grandmaster, this wise, old, rabbit-like ruler, announces he's going to retire. But not just retire. He plans to reincarnate as a deity.
As a god.
Yeah. And this isn't just pulled out of thin air. It connects directly to Shinto beliefs. In Shinto, kami, the divine spirits, aren't just like distant creator gods. Kami can be spirits in nature, they can be revered ancestors, or even exceptional people who achieve divine status through their actions and, their power. So the Grandmaster becoming a god is presented as this like natural, honorable next step for a great leader. It's the ultimate achievement in Jutengai, and it ties political power directly to spiritual evolution, which really raises the stakes for the succession fight between Kumatetsu and Iōzen. They're not just fighting for the job, they're fighting for the chance to eventually become divine.
Wow, okay, so the stakes are cosmic, almost. Not just political power, but divinity itself. And that brings us right to Kumatetsu and Iōzen, the bear and the boar. That can't be accidental. He's definitely tapping into some deep symbolism there, right?
Oh, absolutely. 100% intentional. These animals are heavy hitters in Japanese culture. They carry specific meanings, strength, divinity, connection to the wild. They weren't just picked randomly.
All right, let's start with Kumatetsu, the bear. Big, rough, wild. What's the archetype there?
Okay, the bear Kuma. It's often seen as the lord of the animals, especially in northern cultures.
Yeah.
Just pure, raw power and almost human-like qualities sometimes. You see this with the indigenous Ainu people in Japan. They have this deep, almost totemic connection, sometimes called bear people. So the bear symbolizes that untamed primal force. And you see it in folklore, like with Kintaro, the golden boy.
Oh, yeah, I know that story.
Right. Super strong kid wrestles a bear and wins. That story kind of cements the bear as the ultimate test of strength, especially for a boy becoming a man. Kumatetsu is that archetype. He's a loner, lazy, rude, incredibly strong, but zero refinement. Pure, wild nature. Hosoda himself called the bear a symbol of initiation into life, and yeah, the strongest animal indigenous to Japan.
Definitely not Winnie the Pooh then. More like a force of nature you have to reckon with. And what's interesting is how the film flips that Kintaro story. With Kyuta, the boy isn't trying to beat the bear.
Exactly.
He has to learn from him, to understand that wildness, mimic it, channel it.
Precisely. The beast becomes the teacher.
Yeah.
Which then brings us to his rival, Iōzen the boar. He's a whole different kind of strength, isn't he?
He really is. He's so noble. Respected, looks like the perfect father to his own kids. Total opposite of Kumatetsu's chaos. He's all about order.
He is. And the boar in Oshishi, it's complex too. Yes, it symbolizes courage, ferocity, maybe recklessness sometimes. But importantly, the boar can also be a shinshi, like a divine messenger or an animal associated with certain gods, certain kami, particularly mountain gods, Yamano kami, and even a Buddhist protector deity, Marichi. So the boar carries this air of sacred authority. There's another legend about the hero Yamato Takeru. He disrespects a big white boar. Turns out it was the god and gets cursed, which leads to his death.
Oof, don't mess with the divine boar.
Pretty much. It shows the boar as this powerful, almost divine figure you have to respect. And Iōzen embodies all that. The ideal leader, strong but dignified, refined, respected, a good father, the picture of social order. His strength is controlled, disciplined, approved by society.
Such a clear contrast. So putting them against each other. Why? What's Hosoda exploring with this rivalry? It feels like a debate about strength, about fatherhood.
Absolutely, it's a dialectic. Kumatetsu is that raw individual power that, frankly, needs connection and discipline to be truly useful. Iōzen is the civilized, socially approved strength. But his tragedy is that he's too rigid. His big mistake, his fatal flaw, is sticking to that noble image even when it means lying. Lying to his adopted son Ichijūko about being human. He thinks he's protecting him, but that lie, it's what breaks Ichijūko's.
Okay.
It fuels that darkness inside him, turns him into the antagonist. So the story, in the end, kind of validates Kumatetsu's approach. Messy, chaotic, sure, but authentic. His bond with Kyuta is about real growth on both sides. Iōzen's way, even though it looks perfect, leads to disaster because it wasn't based on truth. It really feels like Hosoda working through what makes a good father, not just a proper one.
Right. Authenticity trumps perfection, even messy authenticity. That's a really powerful takeaway, especially today. Okay, shifting from the beasts now, let's talk more about the humans, this idea of the darkness, the gaping void. That's unique to them in the film. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is maybe the film's most original supernatural concept, and it's absolutely key. This darkness or void is presented as something only humans have. The beasts see it as, well, dangerous, a liability. It's basically why humans are banned from Jutengai. This void is where uncontrollable emotions fester: anxiety, rage, despair. It's like a spiritual emptiness. The beasts, with their complete hearts, just don't have. And we see it play out in the two human kids. For Kyuta, or Ren, his human name opens up after his mom dies and his dad basically disappears, leaves him feeling abandoned, angry, alone. For Ichijūko, who grew up thinking he was a beast, finding out he's human is devastating. That, plus seeing his adoptive dad Iōzen lose the duel, it just feeds his self-doubt, his rage, until this darkness takes over. And for Ichijūko, it becomes literal. This tangible, destructive power, telekinesis basically, fueled by his despair, threatens both worlds.
It's such a striking idea, this human-specific void. It feels very modern, very psychological. But I wonder, does it connect at all to older Japanese spiritual ideas? Is there anything like it in Shinto or Buddhism?
That's a great question. And yes, while it's original in its specific form, it definitely resonates with existing concepts. In Shinto, for example, kami are said to have two aspects, or souls. The Nigimitama gentle, peaceful, and the Aramitama rough, assertive, even violent. You could see the human darkness as like an uncontrolled Aramitama. Raw spiritual energy gone wrong because it's not balanced or guided.
Oh, okay.
It also echoes Buddhist ideas of emptiness or voidness, shunyata in Sanskrit, ku in Japanese. There's even that scene where Kumatetsu and Kyuta visit a sage who looks like a Buddha and talks about looking within. But the film shows two ways that emptiness can go. Ichushiko's void becomes this negative, destructive abyss because he's clinging to a false idea of himself. Kyuta's void, though, it becomes a space for potential. It gets filled by the love, the spirit of Kumatetsu. It transforms from weakness into a source of strength.
So it's more than just a magical problem in the plot. It's really a metaphor for something deeper, something contemporary.
Absolutely. If you zoom out, that darkness really works as Hosoda's metaphor for modern anxiety, especially maybe in young men. That feeling of being lost, not knowing who you are, maybe made worse by family breakdown, which is a theme Hosoda directly engages with. Notice how it's triggered in both boys by a family crisis. That feels very connected to Hosoda thinking about his own role as a father. And the film's answer, its core idea, is that you can't fix this void by yourself. It needs help. It needs a powerful, loving connection. Specifically, it argues, a father figure. It turns these supernatural elements into symbols for very real human struggles.
And this whole journey, all these ideas, they build towards that incredible climax. Kumatetsu becoming a god, not in the way anyone expected. It's so unique.
It really is. That's the spiritual heart of the film, I think. Kumatetsu's sacrifice. He wins the duel. He earns the right to become Grandmaster, maybe eventually a god. But he gives it up. He uses that power, that privilege, to reincarnate as a divine sword for Kyuta to wield.
Wow.
It's the final step in his journey from selfish brute to a selfless father. His godhood isn't for him. It's a gift to his son. And, you know, it echoes Shinto ideas like Tsukumogami, where old tools or objects can gain a spirit. Here, it's kind of the reverse, a spirit going into an object. But it draws on that same cultural idea of divinity being able to live inside things.
Yeah.
And choosing a sword. So symbolic. Connects to samurai spirit, which Hosoda loves. It drives home that lesson from Kyuta's training. Strength isn't the weapon. It's the heart using the weapon. Kumatetsu literally becomes that sword in the heart, filling the void, merging with Kyuta, becoming his inner strength.
The sword in the heart, that image just sticks with you. It's so much more than just a magic sword. But before we get that resolution, Ichiko's darkness goes wild, right? Takes that terrifying form.
Oh yeah, as he completely loses it, his darkness explodes into the human world's Shibuya crossing. No less is this giant spectral white whale.
The Moby Dick reference.
Exactly, very explicit nod to Melville. It perfectly symbolizes his obsession, his grief, his rage, just this overwhelming destructive force born out of human despair. And Hosoda has actually commented on how animals like whales often get unfairly cast as villains. So maybe Ichishiko, the human boy who lashes out like a beast, is meant to be seen as this kind of misunderstood monster too, acting out of immense pain.
That's a really compassionate way to look at it. Misunderstood monsters. Now the ending. Kyuta goes back to the human world. Some people might see that as him just, choosing humans over beasts, leaving Jutengai behind. Is it that simple? Feels like maybe not.
Yeah, that's a really important question. And I agree, looking deeper, it's not about choosing one world or the other. It's about achieving a synthesis. Kita doesn't just flip a switch and become Ren again. He goes back changed. Fundamentally. Permanently. He carries the spirit of Kumatetsu, his beast father, inside him now, integrated into his soul. He's a new person, forged by both worlds. His strength is Kumatetsu's wild power plus his own human heart. You can almost read the whole supernatural journey as this big allegory for psychological integration. Ren goes down into the underworld, Jutengai confronts his inner beast, his anger, his grief, which Kumatetsu embodies. They're training together. That's them integrating with each other. And the climax where Ren absorbs Kumatetsu's spirit into that void, it's a perfect picture of integrating the shadow, right? Accepting the beast within as part of you, a divine part making you whole.
So it really is about self-acceptance, embracing all those parts of yourself, even the difficult ones, the beastly ones, not pushing them away. That's where true strength comes from.
Exactly. Bakemono no Ko just weaves together all these strands, the Bakemono folklore, the bear and boar archetypes, Shinto and Buddhist ideas about becoming divine so skillfully.
Yeah.
And it uses them to tell this incredibly relevant personal story about modern fatherhood, finding yourself in a confusing world and having the courage to face your own inner darkness.
Hosoda really does feel like a modern myth maker here, using fantasy, using sci-fi like in Summer Wars or Wolf Children, not just to escape reality, but as this amazing tool to explore family, how we connect, how we navigate a world where the old rules are changing.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you to take away. What's the ultimate supernatural power in this film? It's not the shape-shifting, not even becoming a god, maybe. It's the power of the heart. That sword in the heart, it's not just a weapon, it's love, it's connection. It's that bond that bridges two worlds and forges one whole identity. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What do we choose to put into that human void? And how do those connections shape who we become?
What kind of sword in the heart are you forging in your own life?